Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. Today we're having some fun. We're doing little gingerbread man, using techniques to make things look three-dimensional. If you've never tried doing watercolor where it looks three-dimensional, this is the tutorial for you. I go over the step by step. There is one key component to this, and I talk about this. It's the watercolor paper. And then of course the technique to do it, to make it blend and bleed, to create the three-dimensionality. If you're a Patreon member, you get the trace, the black and white line drawing that goes with this, and as well as the extra tutorial. And you can click the link in the description box to join my Patreon and learn more about it. So without further ado though, let's get started on Mr. Gingerbread Man. So this technique is a great technique if you want to make your gingerbreads come to life, look three-dimensional. As I stated before, the Patreon members get the traceables. If you want to be a Patreon member, click the link in the description box below. And for the white part of the frosting, or even the scarf, because we're going to use a bigger brush to paint this in, I masked in right here the little white parts, right? And then the face and the buttons. It goes a lot faster, makes things a lot easier. You really need to try and paint this on an arch paper or a really good cold press, maybe like a Fabriano, a Bohang. So I just basically took a sheet of arches and fold it in half, then fold it in half again, and I get this nice size, like 4x6. And I'm going to grab my Princeton 12 aqua elite, and I'm just watering down some burnt umber. So here we go, and it's very loose. And we're going to just, the reason why I masked it in is it's much easier to work in a large surface area with a bigger brush than a small one. So wet on dry, we're just going to go right over all this. You see this? I'm going to water down a little bit more. Just fill that in there. See, I'm adding some more water so it looks a little bit lighter. And we'll go add some darker color too. But you can go right over this. Look how quickly you can do this gingerbread once you masked in your frosting part. Look at that. Now it's very, very damp, and we can play with this while it's damp. Big brush, look how fast this goes. Get this nice color, and it's just one color. It's basically burnt umber, watered down. And it's drying, slowly drying, seeping in. Now I'm going to take that paint and mix in some Paynes gray, a little more burnt umber. It's a little deeper, darker right there. And I'm going to grab the burnt umber itself and just get a little thicker with the paint. So we add more pigment, gets a little thicker, not as thin. And we can start to kind of bleed it in our wet, watery watercolor. Kind of manipulating it. So I'm just tapping it on the sides and around the brim of the hat and on the edge here, under the scarf, and around the legs. If you go outside the lines, don't freak out. There's so many vector images of gingerbreads all over the internet. You can just download a few that you can find that are royalty free, that you wouldn't get in trouble with. But if it's personal use, I think it'd be all right. Or draw your own. I'm sure you could doodle a gingerbread. So now see how you bled? It's bleeding, and so it's darker on the edges. It's still very wet, but it's drying. And we're going to do this again. We're going to get a little bit darker still each time. It's starting to look three-dimensional, isn't it? So thicker paint. I like tube paints because it gets easy to activate. So barely any water at all. And you can start to play with, just see, I'm just kind of taking a swipe under the scarf on the edge on the right hand side of the white area that's masked out, and on the edge here, down here, under the white areas again, a little bit on the side here and under the scarf, and next to the little buttons, and the nose and the eyes and the mouth and the side here. starting to seep into the paper. Still looking really cool and three-dimensional. This technique only works on really good cold press. Don't even try it on hot press. It won't blend and bleed like this. This is wet on dry, and then when you're bleeding it, it's wet on wet. This is the major technique of watercolor. And then I remember I added the burnt umber with the Paynes gray, and it's like almost like a brown black color. Here's the Paynes gray, burnt umber, Paynes gray, burnt umber. It's a really deep brown color. And I'll start to add a little bit of that here under the scarf. Now it's really going to pop next to the little buttons. Just see, I'm just doing a little teeny tap. It's so tiny. Next to the frosting little arms, and here on the edge. Here. Again, we're going back over those areas. Just a little bit more color. And up here. Kind of on the side here and here. That deeper color. Look at it, he's popping. He's popping. He's coming to life. Getting a little bit deeper here. Now, I have a little issue going here. If it's not blending, it's stopping, I'll clean off my brush. Just grab a little bit of water on my brush and kind of blend it. Now, we'll see what happened. I created cauliflower bloom. If that happens to you, I'm going to show you how to fix it. You kind of have to wait till it dries a little bit. Or another way is to go ahead and paint over the whole thing again, right? Once it dries. So you see, if you're still playing with it now, which you could do, grab some watered down burnt umber. You can go right back over it really quickly. Or wait till it dries and try not to just blend it out. Those are the couple ways that I do it, and you don't even really notice. See, it's starting to be a little problem here. I'll just wet that whole area. And it's like it never happened. Right? Kind of tricky to get rid of that cauliflower bloom. And there is our cute little guy. So we're going to wait for him to dry. I'm going to come back and do the hat and the scarf and stuff. So now we're going to mix up some greens. I take cadmium yellow deep and Prussian blue and make some nice greens. And you can add more blue, a little bit of burnt umber if you want a darker green. So I'll take that same green. Here's like a nice medium green. And I'll grab more Prussian blue, some burnt umber. And now you have a darker, deeper green. Get a little bit more brown in here. And more blue, and more brown. You can use the same brush. I like to use a bigger brush. It just gets the area faster. And mix up some more of this again. Consistency of the paint. I talk about this all the time. Why I say consistency is like the way you want to add more water or more paint. It should be like almost milky. If you want to make it, I wouldn't make it too watery. It can't, it's going to be hard. You can add a little bit more water and then it's coffee. I'm just trying to make the color just right. Get a nice medium green. There we go. A little bit later. All right. So we're going to go over the brim of the hat. You do one area. You want to make it three-dimensional. You could do both, but the problem is you got to do one section at a time. So we'll let that dry. And we can do the pom-pom, which is, I'm just going to use Pyro Rubin, this color from Holbein, which I love, Pyro Rubin, W206. And I like to mix it with my cadmium red light, so it's not such a cherry red, it's a little bit different. And we'll just take the same brush. Consistency, it can be like milk to to cream. I'll zoom in, and you just take your brush and you're just kind of wiggling this. To hit the pom-pom. Leave a little white, if you can, and wiggle out. And we'll let that dry. We'll add some deeper color to that too. Why, you just grab some pyro ruben on the tip of your brush. It's much deeper than that first one, and you can kind of blend a little bit of this color here on the right. You could even just tap in a little bit of ultramarine blue deep on there and just get that shadow kind of happening on the right hand side. See, just little teeny taps. Goes a long way. Makes it a little bit three-dimensional. All right, so these guys are now completely dry, and I use this tool called a rubber cement pickup to lift up all the masking fluid. It's really quick and easy. It's the best tool on the planet. It used to be like $4 on Amazon. I think they're maybe $5 or $6. It's in my Amazon shop, and you can find it there. And it's just a great tool. It just lifts it up. Don't bother needing tape. And it starts to build up a little bit on the corners. You just kind of pull it off, and it's back to new. Voila! I'm going to switch up my brush a little bit now. I'm going to grab a Princeton long round, 8 long round, whatever brush works for you. It's a little bit skinnier, a little bit smaller. So we're taking that same mixture of the pyro ruben, or you could just use any kind of red you have. And I'm watering it down, as you see. And we're going to do the scarf. So basically, I drew it in for some people. You could just take your paintbrush and water it down. Consistency is like tea, coffee. And just pull it down like here. You can keep it as a stripe, and we can make it as a plaid, but you'll have to wait to let this particular stripe dry. Turn it. You're just doing every other, you know. Don't need a pencil to pencil this in. You can make it as fat or as skinny as you want and go in between. I like the stripe. It's kind of cute, kind of candy cane-ish. We could do a candy cane stripe. I originally drew it out as a plaid, but play with it. For the eyes, for the nose and the buttons, I might add a little bit more pyro ruben. And so again, you're just going to fill it in like so, and I leave a little white on the side. See, I go around the circle, fill most of it in except that little line there. It's a little halo, a little highlight. Cute, right? Same thing for the nose. Leave that little white highlight. Helps it make it look three-dimensional. Sweet. Remember, we mixed up that dark green, and we'll use that for the eyes. Same thing. Leaving that white. I have to activate my green. Sorry. That looked a little too bluey. So we do the dark green for the eyeballs. This part of the green is dry. So I'm going to take that same green color. I'm going to fill in the hat here. And make sure you have your dark green close by. Is when I need it to bleed color. Okay, so I have mixed up my hat. Similar premise to mixing up dark green here. The gingerbread, which is where you're bleeding the color. Now we got to get even darker green. I'm mixing up my dark green. And you're going to bleed just tippy tap on the edges here and underneath the pom-pom. You want to go in some of the pom-poms to make it more three-dimensional. And on the edge here, just putting a little line here. It'll start to look three-dimensional this way. Just a little bit goes a long way. That's all you need. Boom. You can even put a little bit of this dark green on the right side of this eyeball to really pump it up. So we're going to let that dry. And we're going to go back and finish up our red. Clean up your brush. Grab the red. I'm mixing up my red here. Now if you want to do the plaid, obviously you're going to cross. You do want it to keep the same consistency in the paint. Mine's a little bit thicker. I have to water it down. So when it crosses over the one that you painted before that, it should have a nice darker area and where the two meet. See, and you have a nice plaid. So I'm going to water this down. I'm just going to turn this. It makes my life easier turning it. And filling in this color here. And then the bottom. Kind of match the little knot area here. Look at that. See how where the two meet? Where the two meet, it's darker. And then when it's dry, you can go back in and add another, another wash of the color, and it would look more like a gingham-y kind of plaid, which is really kind of cute. So we're in the home stretch. I'm going to grab ultramarine blue deep and burnt sienna. Going to make a little gray here, a little more blue than burnt sienna, so it's like a blue-gray. And I'm also just going to clean up my brush. And I'm going to grab a little bit ultramarine blue by itself. Just a little bit. Add a tippy-tap of like the burnt sienna. I want to keep it more blue-blue. And we're going to do a little highlights on the white area of the frosting. So just a little kind of very, very light wash. You see this? Little white wash, a blue on the white. You can get a little bit darker if you want in some areas, but it's really kind of faint. Right, and then on the lips. And then we mixed up that lovely gray, bluish gray. Gonna go back and grab my blue here. And this is the fun part. So I'm going to put a line here. It's fairly dark. Going to move fast here. So like a shadow here. The pom-pom. Now that's fairly dark. Right? But we don't want to keep it this dark. You could if you wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to clean off our brush. Just have a little bit of water on it. And we're going to kind of blend it. Keeping that dark area still and blending out this area. See that? And grab a little bit more water. Tap it on the paper towel and blend it. Look at that. If you have to go back in and grab a little bit more paint, go ahead. And then I do a little bit out here too. Just a little bit of gray on this side. Not much. See how it looks three-dimensional? If you want to grab a little bit more deeper gray again, just go in here. This is what makes him look like he's on the table. And you can take that same gray and go under these little areas of the frosting. You might need to get them darker. Under the mouth, the nose, go on the right side of these things, and the buttons. Going under the scarf here. Everything starts to pop now. here. Not too much though, just a little bit under the frosting areas. The gray goes a long way. Okay. And remember, we're going to go back over those red areas. If you want. And you could even add some little bit of red by his smile to make a cheeky smile. Last but not least, I'll take that dark green and I'll do like these little V's. So they look like a little knitting stitch hat. So you're just painting some V's going upward on a tilt on the hat. You could have made the hat with dots and stripes, or whatever you wanted to do. And I'm going to add a little bit of green on the plaid here. I'm just taking my Princeton No. 4 liner brush from the Umbria series and going underneath and on each side of that big wide plaid of the red, and then a little bit on top. Just gives a little extra something. You don't have to do this. It's something I wanted to do just to give it a little extra something. It looks kind of cute. So I hope this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Isn't it cute to paint a little cute gingerbread? Like I said, if you're a Patreon member, you get the traceable and also the extra tutorial with Mrs. Gingerbread. Click the link in the description box, join Patreon. It's where you support my channel here on YouTube. Patreon was created by a YouTuber who people wanted to support, and so he created Patreon. So it's great that we have Patreon to help people support the YouTube creators, which I really appreciate. And because of that, we give you extra tutorials. I have exclusive ones on Thursdays. I have a private Facebook group. You get first dibs on watercolor workshops and retreats, and it really pays to be a Patreon member because 2 of my workshops sold out within hours on Patreon, didn't even go public. So it's just a perk of being a Patreon, which I really appreciate. So thank you so much. Leave a comment below and please share if you can, and like and subscribe. Thank you so much for stopping by. Take care.